What's up everyone, welcome to Kai's channel. Today we'll be talking about how to restore loose joints for your metal build or other diecast products. But just before we start, I want to say that the method that I'm showing you guys are not the only method that's out there, nor the product that I use is the one and only option. There are plenty of other methods, so if any of you have other methods that you would like to share, feel free to leave it in the comments so that other collectors can also benefit from this as well. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. So here are the tools that we'll be using today, and I'm going to go through them. Starting on the left side, we have the brush, and next to that we have these needles, and then you got this little tray, and of course this liquid bottle. As for the brush, obviously we're going to apply the liquids that's in the bottle onto the joints that we're going to fix. And here we have 3 different brushes. Now for the brush, you don't have to get the same brand as I did. You can get any brand that you want. The only requirements that you have is that you want to get the tip as thin as possible, and also you don't want to get some of the cheap brushes that when you start painting with it, the threads start to come off one by one. Because you don't want to be applying fix just to find out that there's a thread stuck onto the product and you have to figure a way just to pull that little thread out of the joints. If you go to an art shop, those brushes are usually decent enough for you to use for this kind of fix. As for the needle set and also the Liquitex varnish, I'll put the link in the description below. Next we have the needles. Now the needles are for areas that even the brush are not able to apply. And I got them from the Amazon Japan and they ship it all the way here. But if you don't like to purchase the needle from the Amazon Japan, that's totally fine. As long as you can get it very thin, then that's all it matters. The only requirement for that is that you want to get the diameter of the needle as thin as possible so that you don't apply too much when going through. That's why this set actually is very good, because it's come in 3 different size of needles, and also the volumes is different as well. You can see the orange, it's a 0.5 diameter, the blue one is 0.6, and the black one is 0.7. And the volume of each one is 1 milliliter, 2.5 milliliter, and 5 milliliter. But not only that, it also comes with extra needles just in case that you clogged up the needles on the one you use. You can always replace that. So that's really good for this set, and that's why I chose this amongst the other ones. Now this little tray here, it's nothing more than an optional set. You can use it or you can choose to use without it. My purpose is to basically pour out the liquid so that you can get the brush to dip into it without dipping directly from the bottle. As for the little tray, you can get it in any model shop that sells Gunpla and also the tools for that. These are just the little trays that you use for mixing paints, so get those on those modeling shop. Last but not least, the main character of this video is this bottle of liquid. It's by Liquitex. Now just before people come after my neck, the original purpose for this liquid is actually not for any of the metal or diecast products that we're going to apply to. At least that's not the original intention. But in Japan, this bottle is actually very well known for applying onto fixing loose joints, no matter if it's metal or if they're plastic. So that's why we're going with this today. Now this bottle actually comes in 2 sizes. One is the one you see, the 120 milliliters, and also a smaller size, 40 milliliters. But for the sake of shipping, I went with the larger size, which is this one, the 120 milliliters, and we're going to see how it is to fix the loose joint. So let's get right into it. So here we have, it's the Freedom 1.0. As a lot of you might know that the Freedom 1.0, it's very well known for all of its joints being very loose. And you can see right now just how it is. Now you can see that it can't actually stand. The knee joint is actually super loose. It cannot support its own weight, so we're going to see how to fix that. And we're going to see how much this permanent matte finish can restore the tightness on the knee. Now just like any other product that you're going to be working on, remove as much as possible any parts that it can actually come off. Now technically all the parts can be disassembled, but what I'm referring to are parts that are easily removable, such as the backpack and sometimes the thigh armors and other armors that it might come off. So that just in case that you messed up or you painted outside of the area that you want, so that it doesn't ruin other parts, that's in the way. And this seems to be all the parts that we can remove. Now technically, if you're going to apply on some of the thigh joints, then you can see that there are actually some screws that you can unscrew and apply to it properly. Technically, that's how you do it, but for people who are unsure or also are not too confident in doing it, I suggest you don't touch those parts and just apply it onto it without unscrewing them. Because the last thing you want is to unscrew every part just to find out that you cannot put them back together. Alright, let us apply onto the knee and also the ankle first. First, as you can see on the knee, it's actually this really slight gap. And so in order to do that, that's where the needle comes in. And so you should aim for those cracks and squeeze the liquid onto it very gently so that you don't squeeze too much onto it. As you can see, I overpressed, but no need to panic, we can solve that later on. And apply onto the bottom part as well. You can see that on the top part it's already seeping into the gaps on the cracks. And after you applied it, give it a little massage so that it actually goes into all the areas that you need to. Now for the areas that you can see that I actually overdid it, don't panic. Get a wet towel that's a little bit damp but not too wet so that you don't ruin the liquid that we just applied, and just wipe them off. Now you have to do it as quickly as possible because you don't want to wait for it to dry before you do that. And then we wait for the knee section to dry off. But meanwhile, we're going to attack onto the ankle. Now the ankle, again, it's really hard to see the ball joint inside. So again, we're going to use the needle to apply for it. So basically squeeze the liquid in all around the ball joint, just so that it covers it. And again, give it a massage, rotate it all 360 so that it seeps in all the way to the bottom of the ball joint. And once you do that, you should see that the liquid should be mostly inside already. And all we have to do is to wait for it to dry. And also let's apply to the right side as well. And let's wait for it to dry. So here it is after applying the first layer, and we waited 15 minutes for it to dry. It's not completely dry, but let's see how it is. So we can continue to apply for this after this dry, and this probably will repeat a couple times, and you must have the patience for it to wait for it to completely dry before you can apply the second layer. So it's going to take a little more time than usual. But as for now, let's check out how it is. At least it can stand on its own right now, unlike it was before. so even slightly bending on the knee, it still didn't auto collapse, just like how it is in the beginning. So it's definitely an improvement right there. Let's put back most of the items onto it and see how it is. Alright, here it is. Let's see if it can stand on its own. Seems like the left knee is still a little weak, but the right knee, it seems to be holding on. So let's apply another layer and wait for it to dry a little bit longer. So it's almost nearly 24 hours since I last applied it the second layer. The reason for that is that it was getting late yesterday, and also I wanted to know if it dries longer, would the effect be better. So let's take a look. So here we have lying straight, and it doesn't seem to be dropping on its own, other than the thigh, which we didn't apply any fix on. So let's move it a bit. It's still not dropping on its own. And it seems to be pretty tight. So far so good. So here we have on the back. Now you can see that the fix that we applied, the liquid, is dried off pretty much. But you can see some extra that's left on the joints, and it's actually those white that you can see on the joints, and we just have to remove it to make it look cleaner. And what you want to do here is that you want to get something that's sharp enough and strong enough, but yet not too strong that it will scratch the metal. So here in this case, we're going to use a toothpick, and we're just going to basically scrape it off. And just like before, you get a damp towel and wipe off the excessive parts. And here you go. So just with a couple minutes, it's already looking a lot better. You can see it's a lot more clear. Obviously you can still do a little more on it. Now if you want to be perfect, obviously you can continue to do it, but for me, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So we're going to put everything back together and see how much the legs can now support. So the moment of truth. So although it's actually still a little bit difficult because there's so much problem with the Freedom 1.0, but at least the knee and also the ankle, it's now supporting its weight. So as for now, the Freedom, the knee's a lot better. Alright, let's move on. So here we have is the Astrea in its full armor. Now overall, the joint doesn't have much issue, but there is an issue that we're going to fix today, which is the one on the wings right here. Now if you see, if I move it up so that it's on par on to the right side, you see that it doesn't support the weight and it's dropping down very quickly. So that's what we're going to fix today. Now first and foremost, just as I has mentioned, try to take that off first completely. And then we're going to apply the fix onto it. So just the same as before, we're going to apply the permanent mat onto this area. Just a thin layer would do. The last thing you want is to get too much, and then you're going to have another problem that you need to solve. So after you applied it, let it dry, and then we're going to come back and put it on and see how it is. Now let's try it again and see how it is. So far it seems to be working really well. And let's adjust the angles. And you can see it's fixed now. It doesn't fall down, and it's staying up perfectly fine. So it's a very easy fix. So in conclusion, what do I think about this Liquitex varnish? This Liquitex varnish, it's actually like a miracle solution for us collectors. Not only does it apply to die-cast areas, but also on plastic area itself. And both works just as well. Not only that, in case you do mess up onto it, you can use a damp towel to remove that very quickly and it leaves no marks on it. Obviously you have to clean it out pretty precise if you get a big mess of an area. So it's actually really easy to handle. Now the downside to it is that in order to completely dry off, between an hour to 5 hours depends on how thick you're applying your fix is. But for the sake of my video, I only used 15 minutes. That's why the result isn't as ideal as it should be. So for you guys that are trying to do it, it might be a little more tedious, but I suggest you to be a little bit patient and wait for an hour before you try to test the tightness, and then consider whether or not you should apply a second layer or not. But aside from that, this is really great. As you can see in front of you, I already fixed 3 of the die-cast products, 2 metal build and 1 Bandai metal toys that it is. As for the perfect strike, you can see here, I was so focused on fixing it that I totally forgot to press the record button, so there's no clips on it that I can show onto it. But what I did is that I have took the 2 arms off and applied the fix on it, and also used the needle to squeeze a thin layer onto the thigh joints, and now it's perfectly fine. So definitely purchase it. If you have any problem with any joints, definitely go and buy. I do suggest you to buy the 120ml just for the sake of shipping fees. And this bottle you can use for quite a long time, so start off with 1 bottle and you should be set for quite some time. And that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and find it useful. As always, do support me by hitting that like button and also subscribe to my channel for more videos. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.